Welcome to The Identity. I'm your host, Samuel Maangi. Now, today's discussion, I was actually corrected. It's not early pregnancy, but it's unplanned pregnancy. What I had in mind when we were talking about early pregnancies is pregnancies that occurs during teenagehood and before marriage. But then I was corrected to be told that that is unplanned pregnancy. And today on set, we'll be having Dr. Rose Misati and a good friend of mine called Immaculate Ochieng. Welcome.
Thank you.
Now, let me start with you, Doc. What changed? I mean, back then in your years, or back then before, we hardly had these cases. What changed?
Actually, the cases were there.
Oh.
Yes, the cases were there. Let me just say that even for me growing up, because I'm older than you guys, growing up, I do remember my cousins and girls from the village who used to get pregnant. And I can tell a lot of households, they had that pregnancy and abortions took place. A lot of them were taking place using the herbs, you know, because I grew up in the village. Some of them were taking place under unqualified professionals who conducted the pregnancy, who conducted the abortions. I feel like what has changed now is information. The world is a global village. We can now know the pregnancies in Machakos. That time, if I was in Nyamira County, I only know the pregnancies in my village. So now, because I know the ones in Machakos and the ones in Uganda, it appears like it's a pandemic. But yes, it could also be because there is also the power of social media, whereby we have people's desires being stimulated because they have access to social media. And so then we find that this is happening and we get to know more of it. And because of exposure, you know, we have exposure, we have the young people having sex, and then of course pregnancies coming and abortions taking place. Still
on you, you said something about pandemic, and apart from Corona giving us good time with our parents, it has also created a bubble where we have more unplanned pregnancies. Unfortunately, it has affected our teenagers who are in high school, even others in campus. What went wrong? Is it our parents who failed us during this COVID, or it's just our hormones speaking to us? I
would like to say that it's something that was going to happen given the right conditions. So the conditions were right in terms of this break, this long holiday came unplanned. Nobody planned for it. Suddenly children are home for 6 to 8 months and longer without having anything to do. So they're within a confined space. There's nothing much. And you know, an idle mind is the devil's workshop. Again, because some of the older people were home, they're not going to work. And we have abusers within the household. So these abusers, because they're within the same space with these girls, they have abused them. In fact, there are a lot of girls carrying pregnancies out of incest. So that has also happened. So anytime you have a young person who's having a lot of time without having anything to do, you are likely to get them falling into temptation because the hormones are there and the desires are there. During our time, I remember the only time we had a long time was after high school. If you're going to a public university like I did, I had 2 years. But by that time, I was an adult already. During that time, a lot of girls would get pregnant, they would get married. Because you have 2 years and you're like, so what do I do? But the beauty, you had an ID. You're already an adult, whatever you decided to do. But now imagine giving a 15-year-old almost 1 year home, and they really have nothing much to do. That's a challenge.
It's truly a challenge, and I believe it's an issue that has hit home.
Yeah.
Because there are cases of this nature, even in our churches.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's not something that we can laugh about.
No.
And
it's not like us, we are here, and there are those ones there who are challenged. We are also affected in one way or another.
That's true.
Yeah.
Let me come to Immaculate. Sisi ni vijana, we are youth, and truth be told, probably my truth, maybe you can correct me. There's this bubble that has been created where it almost looks good to have a baby daddy or a baby mama. Is that true or not?
It is true. Because as the young people, as youths, we tend to find our identity in things like having a baby daddy, because money, as in everyone loves money, and it's something young people are going for because it's easy money. It comes without much effort. I digress. Of course, there's that effort because you have to do something. You can't get free money. But then there is that thought of physical effort. So there is that part of they have to get easy money. I want to change my wardrobe. I want to wear shoes worth 2,000 and above, and the option of having a baby daddy, I can get that money really quick. I can shine. Yes.
What will you say about this mentality?
Yeah, and at some quarters it's called the sponsor phenomena, whereby you find a girl like Immaculate, she wants to dress like the way I'm dressed, not knowing that it has taken me years and a lot of work for me to buy for myself this. So the idea of not having delayed gratification, you know, waiting for that right time, you want to put a weave worth 20,000, you know, you don't want to wait for that time when you have the money, then you can decide. But at the end of the day, I want to say something. If you are a young girl and you find that you have this desire to get a baby daddy or to get a sponsor, you have what I call daddy wounds. You probably never connected with your father. So what you're looking for is fathering as much as you're looking for romance. But because your subconscious mind is not able to exactly explain what you want, you go for a man because you're looking for a father figure. Because the truth is, it's a father who should take care of you. It's a father who should provide for you. So when you're looking at a man as an ATM, as a sponsor, already that tells you that you need connection with your father. And the man will not satisfy you because he comes from a point of he's more advantaged, he has more control of you. So he will want to use you whichever way.
There's someone watching right now who's probably had a child outside wedlock, rather. They might be thinking that we are condemning you. Not really. Not really. We just want to understand further. Because there's someone... In fact, that leads me to the next question. Doc, let me come to also an aspect of baby. I personally have heard of it, but I don't understand it.
Yeah.
Baby fever. Is it something that is actual?
So there is what we call the maternal instinct and probably the baby fever that somebody would like to get a baby. But I usually ask, because I've counseled many people who actually tell me they really want to get a child. And I ask, we go deeper, we ask, what is it about this child? Many of them, it gets to the point of they are longing for somebody to love them unconditionally. And I think there is no greater love other than, of course, the love of Christ you can explain or express other than the love of a mother carrying her child, birthing that child in extreme pain, but still loving the child, breastfeeding that child. You know, that's ultimate bonding, ultimate connection. So many people, they're longing for that ultimate connection with a person because we were given that desire by God. So they want to get a child to meet their own needs, which is wrong. In fact, let me say this. I've taken many people through a healing program who really want a child. At the end of the program, they say, thank you, I'm not ready for a child. I wanted the child for the wrong reasons. So they want a child to meet their own needs. I want to say that the desire to get a child should not be to meet your own needs. Should be maybe to birth another human being and to meet their needs and to take care of them. There's no way you can meet needs of another human being if your needs are not met. In fact, I put it this way. That's why many parents inflict themselves on their children. And they manipulate, blackmail, and guilt trip their kids. I'm your mother, and you don't even love me, and you can do this, and I'm your mother. Wrong. It's not a child to provide and take care of a parent. It's a parent to take care of a child. So people need to heal from the emotional deficiencies and have healthy, stable, nurturing, supportive connections so that then you can decide when you're emotionally healthy, do I really want a child? And you know, a child is not furniture. You put it here, tomorrow you dust and you put it here. This is another human being who is dependent on you and whose destiny largely will be determined by the way you parent them. When you think of this immense responsibility, you know you feel unworthy because you're like, God, am I ready to stand before you and answer for this person that I brought to this world? It's sobering. It's not just something you wake up and say, I want a baby. You know, it's something that is really a sobering and deep truth.
And I think that should also go along to my friends. I learned not to call them my sisters.
Yes,
because I don't have
sisters.
a sister.
Yeah.
My friends, my lady friends, and also to my male friends, just because we have functioning organs and the desire is there, and you can father someone or mother someone, doesn't mean that you should actually actualize that, you know. The burden behind being a parent is heavier than what we conceptualize right now.
Exactly.
Especially as a young person, there's a lot that goes
You
through
see
it.
a baby walking in a flowery dress or they're dressed in a nice shirt and you think that's all. I'm telling you, they're diapers. There are sleepless nights.
There's a friend of mine who told me this. I told them, I'm good with kids. Bring them. Actually carried the child. She even slept in my arms. I was like, you see, I told you I can be a good dad.
Far from the truth.
You know what he told me? You're happy right now that you can carry the child and, sleep. But the moment you go, that's when the work begins.
True.
If you will sleep with this child overnight,
it's true.
And probably the next day, you'll realize being a parent is not a piece of cake.
It's not. It's heavy, a heavy responsibility, but highly rewarding as well.
Well, with the rewards, I don't know.
It's
when I
about
get
God.
there, we'll know. When I get there.
Yeah. God giving us that honor to birth, to participate in co-creating with him. That's how I'm looking at it. It's all about God. I'm not saying that it's rewarding in terms of they'll give you things. They may only give you pain. But at the end of the day, to see that God chose me to actually be a co-creator with him, that's the rewarding aspect I'm talking about.
Immaculate.
Yes.
There's a lady friend of mine who's watching right now, who's had a child outside wedlock. And she's battling with the idea, because I know of people who got children outside wedlock, and because of that mere fact, they walked out of church. They saw, okay, now there's no place for me. What would you tell them?
Okay, I'd tell them that God still loves them, and that there's still room to heal in his shadow, as in God has so much in store for us. And for that person out there who has a child out of wedlock, I'd tell them not to shy away. They could just come back to church and not look at the church. Some people have left church because they feel the church wronged them. And sometimes it might be true, because the way the church handles things, like now a child out of wedlock, it's not good. Like, for example, let's say if I'm in a club, we sing together and then I get pregnant out of wedlock. Of course, my friends will look at me in a different way, and maybe they won't call me for more events that they are going to begin. So for that person, I tell them to come to church, but still I'd charge the church with a responsibility to handle such matters in a sensitive way, because they're sensitive. So
from that particular statement, you're trying to suggest the church doesn't really handle it as nicely?
Yes.
Or as gently?
Sensitive
as it is.
Yes.
Doc, will you agree to that?
Yes, I want to agree with that, and this is not new. Even during the time of Christ, remember the people who brought the woman who had been caught in adultery. And when they were told, whoever has no sin, cast the first stone, there was no one. So sometimes as a church, we want to behave like we are perfect, like we are good, and yet a lot of us had to use contraceptives and emergency contraceptives, and probably the person who got a child had sex once. But some people have so many times, but because the physical evidence is not there, then we want to behave like we are so righteous. We even have some of us who are married within the church, we're having extramarital affairs. And sometimes I always ask, unfortunately, because the burden is on the girl child, always ask, can you also bring this man? And it is so sad, because some of the men are serving in the church, and the girl gets disfellowshipped. And this man is hush-hush, nobody ever says anything. So if there's somebody out there and they have gotten a child, I want to say you are not the chief of sinners. There is no illegitimate child. Some of the greatest men we have, even in history, they came from single parent, even teenage pregnancy, homes, and even Christ himself, he never came from a perfect family. Imagine Rahab, the prostitute, and even Tamar, the one who had sex with the father-in-law Judah. Judah, the son of Jacob. Imagine that's where Jesus came from. To tell us, even Mary, the mother of Jesus, she got pregnant when she was still a teenager. She wasn't married. Just to tell us that in the house of God, even your own mistakes, they can actually be turned to be a mission. The mess, actually your mess can be a message. So whatever has happened, this child deserves to be loved. And just to say, so that we manage our expectations, in the church, some people will like you, some won't. And it's okay. Manage your expectations.
It should be a so.
Yes, it's okay. These are human beings. They are not the ones who have called you. It's God who has called you. They don't know your story. You know your story, and just give the broken pieces to God. And love that child, take that child, begin afresh. God can give you secondary virginity. He does it over and over again. Yeah.
How do we deal with this judgment? I mean, it's okay to know that people don't, the people who like you or not, but how do you deal with this judgment?
In yourself now, the one who has been judged, the best way to deal with the judgment is to accept and say they don't know what they are doing. For me, that's what I always say. They don't have information. They don't know what they are doing. It's okay. Now, you cannot deal with judgment in another person. That's control, and it's not possible. You know, like if some you are judgmental, there's nothing I can do. I can only give you information, educate you, and tell you, you know what? God loves all of us, and we are not perfect. But it's up to you to choose to judge or not to judge. But I want to say the law of sowing and reaping is real. Whatsoever you give another person, you shall receive, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. So let's apply the golden rule given by Christ: do unto others how you would them do unto you. Because it may be you or your child being caught in almost a similar situation. How would you expect people to treat you? Extend grace to everyone, and just know that everybody does the best with what they know. Yeah, it may not be the right one, but nobody wakes up and say, I'm going to mess up my life. You know, nobody wakes up. They are doing the best. But this happened. Let's accept it is the way it is, and let's love them and move on.
Immaculate.
Yes.
Is all hope lost to this young lady? Or, wait, before you even answer that question, Doc, still on you, before I forget this question, the weight heavily relies on the girl child.
Unfortunately so.
But are men affected?
Men are affected. Men are also affected because the moment you have sex with somebody or you get emotionally involved and that ends, you actually get affected because it's like you have left a piece of you in them, you have taken a piece of them. So you kind of, these are bondages, emotional bondages. You get emotionally connected. I always make fun by telling young people that, have you noticed that most married people begin to look alike? Have you ever wondered? Like kwani, as in they pick each other the way they look alike. It's because they have been involved emotionally, sexually for this long. So the boy child is also affected in terms of emotionally and again in terms of diseases. There are diseases that even the condom cannot prevent. There's herpes, you know, there's penile cancer, there's cervical cancer. So they're also affected in terms of getting sexually transmitted infection, in terms of getting emotionally bonded, and even responsibility over the child you have brought. You have talked about baby daddy. You know, there are men who are supporting children who they sired out of wedlock. And then later on, it even comes into your marriage because you are hiding something. And if your wife discovers, it's another thing. Then again, when you get married, enjoying intimacy is a challenge because you're comparing. You're comparing and contrasting with that which you had, which always remains the very exciting one. Yeah.
I have this friend who told me this. Maybe because you see me having a child outside wedlock. It's not like it's a party.
No, it can't be.
It's hard because the assumption that you have created about baby daddies is that they're only the pinch is only financial, but it's not.
It's not.
There's a lot of psychological. Should I say trauma?
Actually, trauma.
Yes.
Trauma.
It's a lot, but just because men don't talk about it, you feel like it's nothing. But there's a lot that goes deep in here that men actually don't talk about. Immaculate, is all hope lost to this girl, to this young girl or young man who's had a child outside wedlock?
No, all hope is not lost for that young lady, that young man who's out there, because I would not say that the effects of sin are sin. Because yes, maybe I might be having that child out of wedlock, but the child is not a sin. As in, God values all lives, you see. So there is hope, and it can be found if the way Doc has said, when we accept it, that yes, I have this baby, and once we accept, we can journey on and maximize God's grace by allowing Him to journey with us through that parenting journey, because He gives strength. He loves us. And he's calling us always to come back. Remember the story of the prodigal son. He had gone out as in far away from home. But see, as in his father running towards him, seeing him afar. That is how God is to us, to that young person. God is just waiting for you.
Oh, amazing. Now, let me come to you, Doc. There's a parent watching right now who's one either paranoid and afraid that the works of their children could potentially bring pregnancy to a family. One. Or two, there's a parent who's now having a grandchild to take care of, yet their children had children. What would you say to them?
You know, you have reminded me something. I was working in one of the public health facilities one time. This lady comes and she's 28. So she had a child. So in my mind, it's her child. She tells me this is my grandchild. She's 28. She came with a grandchild. I was way over 28, please, and I'm not ready even now to have a grandchild. Then I asked her, what do you mean? She said, I got a child when I was 14 years. Now my daughter is 14, she got this child. But because she's so young, so I have to be the one bringing this child to the clinic. I'm like, goodness me. So when you're probably 40, you'll be a great grandmother. I mean, how is that when some people in their 40s are not even grandparents? So some of these things are generational. So like if we got a child out of wedlock, teen, and we haven't dealt with it and talked to our own children, it may be because of that shame and silence, our children may fall into the same trap. So I want to say for parents even, actually pregnancy is not the greatest fear. When I was telling a friend of mine that, hey, I'm afraid my daughter may get pregnant, she said that's even the least of your problems. Because some are not getting pregnant because they're using contraceptives with long-term effects. Some are lesbians, some are gays. So she even said, please don't even talk pregnancy like it's a worst thing. So for me, I want to say, number one, if the pregnancy has happened, your child is pregnant, first of all, thank God that your child is having attraction to this opposite sex. Because LGBTQ, lesbians, gays, bisexual, it's a big issue even in the church. So the fact that your child got attracted to a person of the opposite sex, first of all, celebrate. Now, number two, the fact that they agreed to carry the pregnancy. They did not abort. Again, thank God and acknowledge that they have done this. God has allowed or blessed them to actually give birth and be okay. Because the pregnancy and childbirth related complications, they are the leading cause of death and among the 15 to 19-year-old. So this one has actually given birth. So thank God. And then just say we have this child. The child, there are a lot of responsibilities. We need to adjust in one way or another, maybe employ someone or cut working hours, but let's support this girl child. Let her go to school because most likely she has not completed. Let her complete school because 98% of teenage girls who get pregnant, they don't go back to school. Imagine when they have dropped out of school. Think of that generational poverty and suffering and a repetition of the cycle. So support her to go back to school and talk. Don't shout because sometimes the talk we do parents are mini threats. We are just threatening. The next time you do this, I kill you. So let's just talk to them and ask, how did you get here? How can I support you? What are the triggers so that you don't repeat? Because there are chances again of going back to seek for support and then they get pregnant again and again. And let me also say, I know I'm speaking as a Christian, but I want to say, and that is what even Nancy Van Pelt does in her book, We Have Only Just Begun. She talks about everything and says, okay, if you have decided to still have sex and you're not married, there are contraceptives to use so that you get a child out of choice. So I want to say, because your child has already had sex, just say, I would wish that you abstain. But should you not be in a position to abstain, please use contraceptives. Yeah. It's heavy.
The reason why
I
am a bit sensitive to this topic, it's because I know of a friend who's in high school and she got pregnant during this period of COVID-19. And I remember once someone told me, what can you tell them? till now, I'm still looking forward to say.
It's heavy.
It's not easy.
It's not easy.
It's not easy. And what you're watching right now, if you've not been exposed to this particular environment, you might feel like the shoe is too big or too small for your interest. But we should actually think about it, because you wouldn't want to be in a place where the shoe fits. Because it might fit and you don't like it. Thank you for watching.